Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another episode of the live chat. I am Benji-Sales. Thanks for jumping in. There's been a whole bunch of big news lately. So we got another live chat going. Of course, the biggest thing, the craziest thing, just yesterday, The Last of Us Part 2, as well as Iron Man VR have been delayed indefinitely. That is right. No date attached at all, not even a time frame, nothing. Just indefinitely delayed. So we have a lot we can talk about in regards to that, how the ongoing pandemic is greatly affecting the video game industry in a major, major way now. We can talk about Switch shortages, hardware shortages popping up really, really severely in both the US as well as Europe. We can talk about how that's going, how Animal Crossing affected hardware in March. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on we can talk about. So start dropping those questions into the chat on the side. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about, break down the biggest news. And thanks everyone for joining. I hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone's doing well through the ongoing crisis. I know it's stressful. So I hope everyone's doing good. I hope your spirits are high and everyone's healthy. So thanks everyone for jumping in. It looks like questions are already popping up on the side. Thanks everyone. Let's jump in and let's start chatting. All right. Elias Stapleton, right here off the bat. Number one, The Last of Us is delayed, but man, you saw those screenshots. Look like next gen. Yes, the screenshots are amazing. So for anyone that hasn't seen the new screens, I know it's depressing having such a big game like The Last of Us be delayed. It looks phenomenal. I definitely encourage you to go find those screenshots if you haven't seen them yet. The game is utterly gorgeous. I mean, it's incredible looking. So if it looks like this now, I can't even imagine what the PlayStation 5 version is going to look like. It's going to be truly something else. And Elias here again, do you think The Last of Us 2 is a game of the year versus Cyberpunk? Too early to say for sure, but I would definitely say those are two front runners, Elias. I would definitely say The Last of Us is going to be in that conversation more than likely, unless it's like just something shocking happens with the quality of that game. But I think most of us suspect it's going to review really, really well. Cyberpunk, I feel the same way. I know there's been some mixed reactions to some of the footage we've seen, but we haven't seen anything for a while, and that game got delayed till September. So that's a lot of time to work on that game. And that's not even factoring if it gets another delay. And considering how high quality The Witcher 3 was, I think we all suspect that Cyberpunk's probably going to be in that running as well. If Zelda makes this year, Zelda could be... there's definitely some options. I think Half-Life Alyx is going to be in that conversation. I believe it's at like 94, 93 on Metacritic right now. I think you're going to see Half-Life get some nominations for Game of the Year. I don't know if it'll win, but I think it will be in that conversation. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. But I definitely think those two games you mentioned are probably going to be in the running. Yeah. And one other one from Elias here. Naughty Dog is the only team in worldwide studios for SIE with 100% creative freedom ? Why? Thanks. They're not the only ones. Sony definitely allows for quite a bit of creative freedom in their studios, from what I understand. But Naughty Dog does probably get the most leeway, and I think that's pretty much because the pedigree, right? So, Naughty Dog games generally review outstanding. I mean, we're talking about really ever since Uncharted 2. If you look from Uncharted 2 on, it's basically just been gigantic critical reception for every single game they release, and also their games sell amazing. So with success comes confidence, comes a little bit of leniency. So I do think probably Naughty Dog does get the most freedom from Sony studios, but Sony is pretty good about giving a lot of their studios freedom. So I don't think it's one of the cases where only Naughty Dog gets special treatment. Just maybe they get the most freedom. All right. The Practical Bro, was responding to the Game of the Year question. Yeah, impossible to know yet. Still too early. Wound Up saying, what's up, Wound Up? Alex Bailey coming in here. Hey, Benji, how's it going? Updated thoughts on Animal Crossing sales with another week of sales. Yes, so let's talk about Animal Crossing, the juggernaut. So in Japan, for those who haven't seen Japan numbers yet, probably most of you have, but we can go over Japan first. An enormous second week, over 700,000 physical copies sold. Switch hardware, again, massive sales in Japan. The game's now probably with digital included. We don't have digital numbers for Japan, but more than likely in sorry about that. More than likely in only 2 weeks, Animal Crossing in Japan alone is probably between 3.5 and 4 million. That's absurd. That is insanity. That is just Japan. Now, UK, we saw actually a very large second week drop for Animal Crossing. And I don't think it's the case that, Animal Crossing is really front loaded in the UK. I actually don't think that's the case at all. Switch hardware shortages have become incredibly severe in the UK. And also, I suspect shortages on the game itself are impacting those physical sales. I have seen some shortages for the physical game in the US that has been very much replenished. So it's not necessarily the case right now. But I noticed basically, early this past week, first couple of days, there was definitely some shortages popping up, but Nintendo did a good job of pushing stock back into stores. So I don't think UK is a sign that, Animal Crossing's front loaded. Not at all. In the US, it continues to be an utter juggernaut. We can talk about Switch hardware a little bit. Shortages for Switch hardware are insane. So I wrote a tweet, I think it was pretty much yesterday, that shortages are so severe in the US that even now the Lite model, which has never historically had shortages, right? The Lite you could basically find in every color at any store basically since launch. It's not that the Lite hasn't been successful, so like no one was buying it. It's just that the standard Switch was still the main model. So Lite never really hit shortages. Now that the standard model is completely gone, it's gone. People have been diving in, buying Lites in mass. The Lite has sold a ton of units at the end of March. But even that now, even the Lite is in every color hard to get. So Animal Crossing's hardware sales, the way it's pushed hardware for the Switch is just stunning. It's honestly incredible. Honestly, factoring in PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo, Animal Crossing is probably the biggest hardware mover for an individual game we've seen in some time. That's right. I think it's actually pushing more hardware than even Pokemon did. That sounds crazy. It's not. I think Animal Crossing has had a bigger hardware impact than Pokemon. That is crazy. All right, Bart Jacasa here. So 0% chance of Ghost of Tsushima keeping late June during this month. I think Ghost of Tsushima is in real danger of being delayed. I don't think it's a done deal yet. There's a reason that they didn't include that with Iron Man and The Last of Us. But basically what this was Sony saying, we can go into more of The Last of Us stuff. I'm sure people are going to go with more questions about that. So I'm not going to go super into detail yet, but let's look at the basic thing in regards to how it relates to Ghost of Tsushima. So basically when Sony delayed The Last of Us and Iron Man, that was them conceding that the market is not going to be ready even by late May. It's just not going to be in the position that it needs to be. Whenever you go to launch a big game, right, there's a ramp up. There's a leading effect. It's not like all of a sudden you just flip a switch and the game's out. You have a lot of last minute marketing push to do. You have a lot of retail copies to make. You have a lot of, deals with retail partners you have to fulfill. It's a big thing, right? And basically when Sony delayed that was them saying the market will not be back to where it needs to be by the end of May. Now they waited on Ghost of Tsushima because I think they're hoping, right? The optimistic hope is maybe we're past the peak and we're coming down by the time we hit June. I think that's everyone's hope. I don't think that's impossible. We're there. Obviously, the pandemic will not be gone by June, so I don't think anyone should suspect that. But maybe we'll be more, decreasing on the tail end of it. But it's all going to come down to how things look over the next month to 2 months in terms of Ghost of Tsushima. Just like you're seeing The Last of Us and stuff get delayed, basically a little over a month out, right? The same thing will happen with Ghost. So I suspect if you hit early May, right, we go all through April, early May, if things are still looking really bad, like they're still spiking, we're not on a downward trend at all. Yes, I think you'll see Ghost of Tsushima probably delayed at the beginning of May, but it's not a sure thing yet. It's all about how the next month looks, really. The Practical Bro. The Last of Us was fine. I'm much more excited for Final Fantasy VII Remake. Looks better than The Last of Us 2 in the Practical Bro's opinion. I'm really excited for Final Fantasy Remake as well. Luckily, that has not been delayed. In fact, some places like Australia and some places in Europe already have the game. I'm not going to lie, I'm completely jealous of you that already have the game because I'm extremely hyped for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And to tie this into sales really quick, Final Fantasy VII is going to be a weird one to track because now we have this bizarre staggered launch, especially between retail and digital, right? You have some places like Australia getting the game now, but it's not getting the digital sales. It's just the physical. And then in Europe, it's going to be like completely random when places get it. So I'll tell you what, as big as Final Fantasy VII Remake was tracking, this is going to be a very hard game to accurately report on its sales potential. Basically, probably until we get Square Enix actual PR for the game. I suspect they will. They did for Kingdom Hearts. They did for Final Fantasy 15. Square Enix likes to talk about big success stories, and Final Fantasy 7 Remake's definitely going to be one. But to be honest, like in terms of tracking Final Fantasy sales, it could be difficult to track that accurately until we get some PR because of this bizarre staggered launch. All right. Carnage Ghost. Hello there, Benji. I hope you're having a good day. Thank you. I am. It's a good day today. Question for you. Why do you think sequels are taking more development time each new console cycle? And what do you see Doom 3 and Days Gone 2 out? Great question, Carnage Ghost. So it's a couple things. First of all, one of the reasons you're seeing sequels take a while is just developing for AAA high-end games nowadays is a lot harder than it was traditionally in the past, right? Demands keep going up. Gamers want better graphics. They want bigger games. They want, better soundtrack. They want more, right? The bar just keeps getting raised and raised and raised and raised and raised. So that's part of it, just the amount of development it takes. It's a big project. So there's that. B, for sequels, you really need to differentiate the game, right? You can't just put out, we've seen this in the past with certain sequels that did not differentiate themselves enough, that sales kind of either stagnate or they go down a bit, right? If you're making a franchise, you want that to keep building. So the best way to do that is to really make your sequel attractive. It's got to be a little different. It's got to introduce something, a real hook that the last one didn't have. So then you got to come up with that. And, that's a big project. So especially for these big open world type games and stuff you're seeing, it's just kind of a couple different things lending into it. So it's a lot of work. It's not the case for every sequel where it takes longer. Sometimes you actually can get a quicker turnaround, but for a lot of games, like let's say Halo Infinite, that's a prime example of a game that's taking a very long time to develop. You got to get it right, especially for these big tentpole AAA games, you got to get it right. So that takes time. And then in regards to the second part of your question, Doom and Days Gone. Well, Doom just came out. I don't suspect you'll see Doom 3 for a while. I definitely think that game's happening. Doom Eternal was a sales success. We know Bethesda announced that revenue at launch was double of Doom 2016. And basically Doom is Bethesda's like third biggest IP now. You have Fallout and Elder Scrolls, which are definitely way bigger than Doom. It's not like it's one of those things where like Doom's almost as big as Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Not at all. You have Elder Scrolls and Fallout way up there. Then you have a gap and you have Doom. And then you have another gap. If you look at stuff like Wolfenstein, if you look at games like Rage, if you look at games like Prey, The Evil Within, I could go on and on and on. These games are not at the same size as Doom Eternal in sales. So you'll definitely get a Doom 3, probably a while off, though. I would say 3 to 4 years until you see that. Days Gone 2, I definitely think is going to happen. Days Gone 1 was a sales success. Probably not super far, right? Days Gone already was out for a year, but I suspect Bend is going to want to make sure they nail that sequel because as much as I loved that game, I'm a big Days Gone fan, actually. Now, I didn't play that game at launch when it was super glitchy. I played it after a lot of patches, but I loved that game. And it sold well. So I suspect Days Gone's probably about 3 years out. So it was a year back. Probably 3 years from now, I think you'll see, you'll release Days Gone 2. I don't think it'll be quicker than that. Wound Up, let's hit that like button. I won't complain, Wound Up. If you enjoy these chats, make sure you hit that like button. Helps the channel out a bunch. YouTube likes the algorithm with likes. So yeah, I won't complain. If you drop the likes, I will not complain. Thanks, Wound Up. Desdar 100. How much do you think Animal Crossing has sold, Benji? That's a great question, Desdar. Huge. So like I said, let's factor in a couple things. Japan is somewhere between 3.5 million and 4 million units. It's somewhere in that range. Hard to imagine it's less than that, considering how high physical sales are. So you got 3.5 to 4 million right there. US is probably about matching that, in that range. So you put those two together, you're already just between the US and Japan, probably in that 7 million range, could even be more. Then you factor in Europe. I mean, Destar, it's not impossible. Animal Crossing is already approaching 10 million. It's not impossible. It is 100% not impossible. Here's what I will say. It's definitely minimum sell-through 7 to 8 million plus, and that is bottom of the barrel prediction for me. There's no way sell-through is under 7 million. There's just literally, put it this way, if sell-through is under 7 million, that means a lot of places in Europe really are doing poorly with this game, which there's no evidence of. So 7 million would be the absolute minimum, and more than likely you're probably approaching 10 million already, which is shockingly huge. Could even be higher. But I'm saying, I think you're closer to that 10 million than you are to the 7 million. Sean Torres, do you think it's wise for Nintendo to stock up completely or go little by little? I mean this because of the economy. Great question, Sean. You're probably referring to Switch hardware. Right now, if I was, advising Nintendo, Nintendo has brilliant people working for them, right? I'm not anywhere near the level of Nintendo's people that plan this stuff out. There's a lot of issues going on right now, but I would say get that out the door. Yes, the economy is suffering right now, but in March, hardware sales were astronomical. Whenever March NPD numbers come out, prepare to be shocked. Prepare to be blown away at what you're going to see from the Switch in March. So first of all, there's that. Second of all, in times of crisis, we've seen before that a lot of people flock to video games, right? You need an escape. If you're just spending all of your time constantly overloaded in just anxiety and depressive news, it can overwhelm you. So video games have become a major escape for a lot of people, myself included. And people are going out and they're buying consoles, not just Switch. PlayStation 4 has seen an uptick since the start of the year. Xbox has seen an uptick since the start of the year. So video games have really become an escape for people. So there's a lot of production line issues going on right now. It's not necessarily one of these things where Nintendo's trying to hold back stock. It's just with all of these shipping and manufacturing interruptions going on, that's why you're seeing these shortages. But if I'm Nintendo, I don't hold back because of the economy. I get those Switches out as fast as possible because they will sell. All right. Renan Silva here. Question: what are the impacts and consequences, in your opinion? Ooh, this is a good question. For the industry, if we start to see many more games or even hardware delayed into 2021. Fantastic question, Silva. Fantastic question. So, game delays are coming. Last of Us and Iron Man are far from the end. There are more coming. I kind of talked about this on a previous live chat. Someone had asked me if I was expecting game delays. This was right whenever it was like really starting to blow up in the West. And I said, definitely. I said I thought games that were coming out in April, like Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, were safe, which ended up being true. Even though Final Fantasy is facing some weird physical issues, the game is still on track to release, and Resident Evil is already out. But I said it was those games a little bit further off, right? Those Mays, those Junes, Julys, August, because here's the thing, the games that we're going to release in April, they were essentially basically done. And you had already started some of that manufacturing and process, right? You were already well on the way by the time these big lockdowns started happening. But those games that are a little further off, like I said, it's a lead up, it's a build up to release. That was all getting interrupted. So I suspect you're definitely going to see more games delayed. There's no way that this is the end of the coming storm. What other games are going to be, don't know. But yes, I suspect you will see more games delayed. I don't know how many will be delayed all the way into 2021. I think, maybe I'm an optimist, but I think we'll be in a lot better place by the end of the summer with this pandemic. Again, it's not going to be over with by any means, but I think by the time we hit probably like August and stuff, I think we'll be in a better place. So I actually think probably Q3, Q4 of the calendar year might be huge, right? It might be gigantic because some of these games that get delayed right now get pushed to like, October, November. It could be massive. I think and I hope we'll be in a better place by then. So I do suspect you'll see more game delays. I don't know how many into 2021 unless the pandemic just ends up being catastrophic, right? And lasts longer at a peak way than we even imagine it. So I'm hoping we're going to see these games late 2020. In terms of consoles, this is another thing I tweeted. What's interesting is we could be in a situation. Phil Spencer recently talked about this in an Unlocked interview with IGN. And he said, right now, they're kind of seeing a situation where hardware might be ready, but they're a little worried about software, right? Because hardware, China's ramping back up right now. It's not completely over with in China, but production and everything is ramping back up. And that's where consoles are manufactured, essentially. So we could be in a situation where hardware is ready to go by holiday 2020, for Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, but games are not, right? There could be a situation where these game interruptions are really impacting what launches in terms of software. So I don't think a next gen delay is actually impossible, but I still lean towards it being unlikely. Sony and Microsoft still seem really committed to holiday 2020, but you may see a situation where these consoles launch and the amount of launch new software, of course, they'll be backwards compatible and have all that library, but like brand new, major new releases, it could be a little slim pickings, from delays. It could happen. Elias, do you think PS5 and Xbox full game event or something like that will happen before June or when? Yes, I think before June, Elias. Again, to reference the Phil Spencer interview with Unlocked, if you haven't watched it yet, I highly encourage you to. It's a great interview. But one of the things he talks about, which is something I've talked about before, is the longer you push this back, the more restless third parties are going to get, right? Because they want to start talking about these games. Now, granted, the pandemic is affecting some of that. So maybe third parties are a little more calm for announcements right now because maybe their own games are being affected by this development. But he even noted third parties, they want to start talking. So I suspect before June, you'll hear something. I don't know if it'll be like a giant blowout, but I don't think we're going to have to wait until June to see anything more from PlayStation 5 or Xbox. I suspect late April, end of this month, or May, you may start to see some games and hardware, more announcements. Alex Bailey, updated thoughts on Switch hardware sell-through now with fiscal year ended March 31st. Well, it was over 50 million. Sales shocked and blew me away through March. Again, Alex, I know I've kind of dodged this question before because it's so tough right now with the way shortages are and what inventory is like. Well, Switch has sold 1.7 million units in just Japan. US is going to be, US is going to be high. I'm telling you, March is crazy. What was the exact last shipped figure? Was it 54 million? Am I right on that? Let me check something. Give me just a second. I think it's 54 million, right? 52. Okay, it was at 52.48. Let's say, yeah, Japan 1.7. Shipments is a little bit tougher because we know shipments have been affected. Sell-through is still really high. Total guess here, Alex, let's say 56 million-ish shipped. You factor another 4 million-ish, 4 to 5 million for this quarter, maybe somewhere around there. That's a total guess, Alex, because like I said, the shipment pipeline is all jacked up right now, all jacked up. So hard to say. I'm going to guess 56-ish million, but I don't know that for sure. 55 seems a little low. I think 56-ish. Sean Torres. Also, do you think there's more behind The Last of Us 2 delay? I've seen some people theorizing that maybe it was more of an issue. You know, they talked about that it was really like a production issue, things like that. I've seen some people wonder if maybe it was a development problem, like something's gone wrong with development. I don't think so. You know, one of the things Jason Schreier's been reporting on is that he heard the game is basically done. Like they're just squashing the last couple bugs, but the game itself is done. It's more of a production thing. I lean towards that being more likely. And I don't think it's that the game itself is in trouble. I don't think that at all. So I think probably there, you know, what we know, what they've announced is more than likely the reason. Arkham Knight Hero. Do you think all the new game announcements will be pushed back? Good question. This is what we were just talking about. After the pandemic restrictions, or publishers won't budge. It is a burning question after Bethesda dropping out of the digital event. Yeah, so I have a theory on Bethesda specifically. I think Bethesda's announcement basically means that I don't think Starfield's coming out when they thought it was. You know, I think that game has been delayed. Now, they never announced a release date for Starfield, and it was never this year, right? I never expected Starfield to release this holiday. But what I did suspect was they were going to finally really show Starfield. I thought, you know, it's a big new IP. It's something that they really, whenever they do show Starfield, it needs to be a massive event. I suspect Starfield's been internally delayed. So, you know, I think that's the main reason. I think that was really going to be Bethesda's highlight of their showcase, and now they probably have pushed that game back. So that's my theory on why Bethesda's completely out now. In regards to other publishers, Ubisoft has kind of hinted that their game development's still going pretty strong. You know, you still might see some delays and stuff, but I think a lot of companies are ready to talk. So I don't think Bethesda specifically is a prime example that no one else is going to be ready for announcements. Like I said, I think Bethesda's really, I think Starfield's delayed. That's what I think happened there. Wound Up Penguin. Why do you think The Last of Us 2 has been delayed, but Square Enix did not delay Final Fantasy 7 and Nintendo has not delayed Xenoblade? Great question, Wound Up. So first of all, like I mentioned with Final Fantasy, by the time the pandemic started skyrocketing, that game was basically done. I mean, done, basically. And then they had enough time to kind of get retail copies going. So them being a month before The Last of Us basically made it possible. The Last of Us, it's just going to be coming out not in a time where the world is ready for it. You know, it's just not going to be ready. I've seen a lot of people be like, why don't you just launch it digitally? Because it hurts you. You know, I know digital sales are so big right now. I know it's huge, right? Digital has become a very large chunk of the market, but there's still a lot of people, especially in developing markets, that buy physical. Yes, you know, areas like the US or, you know, let's say the UK are really high on digital, but a lot of places like in the Middle East and expanding markets in other parts of Asia, they still buy a lot of physical games. So by launching it, you know, just digitally, I'll be honest, you are going to hurt your sales. You're going to sell less copies. Yes, digital has become huge, but it is not everything. So you need to have physical ready to go with digital. We're not at a point yet where these giant AAA games can launch digital only. It's just not feasible. Maybe in 10 years, we're there. We're at a point now where digital is overtaking physical, but physical is still huge. It's still 40% on a lot of games, right? That's a huge chunk when you're talking millions of copies sold. So, you know, that's the main reason for The Last of Us. Now with Xenoblade, I wouldn't say that's safe yet, wound up. You could see Xenoblade delayed. I'm going to suspect right now it's still going to come out. But Xenoblade's also a lot smaller release than The Last of Us. That's just the way it is. I think Xenoblade's going to be a success. This isn't like bashing on Xenoblade, but let's look at what a success story for Xenoblade would be, right? A success story would be if it sold 2+ million units. That's really good for a JRPG, especially an exclusive one. Now, let's look at what would be a big sales success for The Last of Us. Over 10 million units, much over 10 million units. So you're talking about different scales of games. You have a lot more going into The Last of Us than you do Xenoblade. So, a little bit different comparison. But I wouldn't say Xenoblade's safe either. Bart Jacasa. Activision dropped Warzone and Modern Warfare 2 remastered at the perfect time. Couldn't agree more, Bart. I retweeted a tweet on this from Slasher, who's a super, well-known esports guy. That's his thing. He's an esports reporter, but he also tweets, some really interesting sales stuff sometimes too, or opinions on the industry. And he was talking about Call of Duty really hasn't been in a better place ever. And, I'm inclined to agree with him. When you look at how strong Modern Warfare 2019 sold and how much it's done a great job of recurring players. When you look at Warzone, when you look at Modern Warfare 2 Remastered, Call of Duty as a brand is on fire right now, which is kind of, surprising because you go back a few years, it might seem like a while now, but you go back just a few years ago and we were in that Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare, kind of Ghosts kind of time frame where Call of Duty was still huge. It's not like Call of Duty's ever been, oh man, Call of Duty just doesn't sell. But there was kind of a time where Call of Duty was a bit on the ropes. It kind of looked like it was declining as a franchise, and they've really turned that around. So I agree, Bart. It's kind of a perfect time for those games, and Call of Duty as a whole is just, they are on fire right now. MH Jaffrian, if The Last of Us Part 2 released only digital, how much could they lose? Great question. This is kind of what I was just talking about a lot, especially, like I said, in emerging markets. Maybe in the US, maybe in the UK, you don't lose a ton, right? You would lose some still, but maybe not a ton. Maybe you lose like 20% of sales, because granted, digital sales for The Last of Us in the US, I'm not projecting to be 80%, but let's just say physical wasn't even an option. You would see some of those physical people switch over to digital, but you would still lose some. Let's just say 20% as a guess. The problem is, like in the Middle East, where Sony has become a very powerful brand, other parts of Asia outside of Japan, other areas, physical is a much, much bigger chunk. So you would lose a lot there. So it would lose them millions in sales. I'm confident in that. You would lose millions, a couple million units, which isn't something to joke around about. Todorov. Hi, Benji. Do you have info about global Nintendo Switch console sales? I kind of guessed at that, Todor, just a minute ago when I was saying as a wild guess, maybe, shipments are like 56 million. That is like such a random guess because of the whole pipeline of shipments being completely disrupted. Who knows? It's hard to know. It's an abnormal time. So this is just a random wild guess. Cyber 17, what do you expect from Persona 5 Royal sales-wise? Well, Cyber, I think it's going to do better than I thought. I actually didn't have high expectations for Persona 5 Royal in the West. I just thought, yes, it adds new content, but it's $60. And JRPGs are the kind of games that are pretty front-loaded anyway. So I kind of thought Persona 5 was a huge success in the West, but I kind of thought maybe so many people that were new to Persona already bought in with Persona 5. $60 is a steep asking price for a re-release that, yes, has new content, but it's still another $60. So I was kind of like not super confident in Persona 5 Royal in the West. I will say some of the things I'm starting to see from certain places, some of the communication I'm seeing, it could do better than I thought. I don't know. I don't want to put a unit on it, Cyber, but I think it's probably doing a bit better than my expectations were. So I think it's going to be pretty solid, actually. Desdar. Also regarding how well has Sword and Shield done by now, you reckon? Probably close to 20 million shipped. probably. It was at 16 million shipped in its first quarter. I would guess it's probably close to 20 million shipped now, probably around there, anywhere between 18 to 20 million. It shipped 16 million, but it didn't sell through 16 million. So the second quarter shipments, its second quarter shipments, I should say, aren't going to be near as big, obviously, as its launch quarter, which was also smack dab during the holidays. So you can't just look at it like it did 16 million right in its first quarter. So of course it's going to do another 8 million in its second. I don't think anything like that. Probably around 20 million shipped, around there. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less, somewhere in that range. That Practical Bro. Phil Spencer said that Xbox are not going to release a lot of titles on day one of Xbox Series X, but they will instead release a steady flow of games following the launch. What do you think? I think it's smart. So, Practical Bro, you definitely need some heavy hitters, right? You can't launch a console with nothing. That never goes well. So you do have to have some heavy hitters. Halo right now is looking like their heavy hitter, but I have to be careful what I say here, but I think there's a chance Halo Infinite could slip. Don't quote me. Could happen. But you do need something. You got to launch good. You got to launch with something big. So it makes sense. You got to have some games. But the issue you run into, let's say you drop 4 first-party games on day one, 4 huge ones. People only have so much money at launch, right? You're already forking out $400 to $500 for the console. You're already forking out 60, 120, bucks for games. Let's say you buy 1 or 2 or 3 games at launch. A lot of people are going to buy a second controller. There's another 60 to 70 bucks. All of a sudden, you're talking about a huge amount of money that is getting spent all in a very, 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 very short period of time. So if you're launching with 4 first-party games on day one, something is going to miss. You just don't have enough money. When you just look at the money being spent, there's just not enough there. Especially when you're factoring in, there's going to be third-party games too, right? You're going to have Call of Duty. You're going to have Assassin's Creed, right? You're going to have these kind of games day one too. So I think it makes sense. It's better to have a steady stream. I would say if they could have a game hitting like once a month for once a month, once every month and a half for like the first 6 months of that console from first party, I think that would be a great spot to be in. I think it's better to do that than to just drop 4 games on day one, because something is not going to sell. Something's going to get lost in that mix. So I think it's probably the right stance to take, and I would encourage Sony to do the same thing. Have a couple heavy hitters, have like 2 really big first-party games there day one, but don't just drop a ton at once. Something's going to get lost. All right, where we at? Cyber17, thank you for the stream, by the way. Times are not easy. Of course, Cyber. Of course, I love doing these streams. I try to do them once a week. I apologize for the weeks that I miss. I think I've been doing better about it lately. But, yeah, I love these streams. You guys rock. I mean, this stuff makes me, a lot happier, to be honest. And I hope it's helping cheer you up in this depressing time, right? Sometimes we got to get away from the negativity. Sometimes we got to just talk about some games, let some stuff out. It's a good time. Jcon Bose 13. Think Pokemon Sword and Shield was 20 million. Yeah, just talked about that, Jcon. I think so. I think you're right around that 20 million mark on shipments. MH Jafarian. The only reason for deleting the Last of Us Part 2 page in the PS Store is there's no release date now, right? Oh, they did? Whoa, I had no idea about that. I had no idea they deleted the PS Store page. That is wild. Yeah, that would be it. Here's an interesting question for you guys. What do you think about just making that a PlayStation 5 launch title? I know a lot of people don't want to wait that long. I'm not saying you're going to wait that long, but the game's delayed indefinitely, right? We don't know when that's going to release. Let's say that it doesn't let's say it's delayed, but Ghost doesn't. And let's say Ghost comes out on time. Do you really drop Ghost and The Last of Us, let's say in the same month? I don't think so. So let's say, okay, now we're looking at September. Or August, a month. Hey, we're delaying it 2 months. It's indefinitely. So I wonder if The Last of Us 2 shifts over to being cross-gen launch. Not saying that's a done deal, y'all. Maybe you get the game a lot sooner. But I do wonder about that. The random guy. Benji, the USA is making dumb moves. I agree. This pandemic won't be over until late fall at best. Over, random guy, definitely not. This pandemic's not going to be over until, honestly, I don't think it's going to be over until next year. I think next year, this is a total guess, by the way. I'm no medical professional, so don't take your medical advice from me. My guess, though, from the things I'm reading, it sounds like there's a strong chance we have a vaccine next year. So I don't think this pandemic ends until 2021. My hope, though, random guy, is that by late summer, we're on the downtrend. We don't want that to still be skyrocketing. If we're in late summer and it's still just skyrocketing in deaths and cases, the world's going to be a terrifying place because it's already skyrocketing. So my hope, random guy, is that the pandemic's still going, but we're past that peak. We're more towards the, decrease. That's the hope, at least. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be over until next year. Honestly, I don't think till 2021 can we safely say, hey, we're past this, where we can really go back to normal, where movie theaters are all open, where sports are back on. I don't think that's coming until probably till we have a vaccine. MH Jafarian, have you seen the 14 new screenshots of The Last of Us? Yes. Does the game look more real than anything so far in video games? It's up there. It's one of the best looking things I've ever seen. That's for sure. Looks stunning, but Naughty Dog are known for that, right? They're masters. So yeah, I would say it's right at the top, right up there with the best things I've ever seen. Generated talent. What time is it, by the way? We still got, I can still go for probably about 15, 20 minutes. There's still a lot of questions here. So I'm going to keep hitting them for another 15 or 20 minutes. Thanks everyone for joining the chat. So Last of Us and probably Ghost is defo or PS5 and PS4 cross-gen. Great timing. It's what I was just kind of mentioning. Wonder how they will avoid the backlash for charging for both each version. Generated talent, I don't think they will. I think it's going to be exactly like how Microsoft is handling their first-party games, and where you buy it on regardless of either system, and it's on both for their cross-gen games for Sony. I suspect if, let's say, The Last of Us Part 2 is pushed to cross-gen, I don't think there's going to be two different price points. I think if you buy it on PS5, it works on PS4. If you buy it on PS4, it works on PS5. Honestly, I like with the updated graphics on PS5 and everything. So I don't think they're going to be charging twice for it. Random guy. Ooh, here's a big fun prediction. The Last of Us 2 isn't coming out until next year, folks. Random guy with the scorching hot prediction. I do think it makes this year, random guy. I respect the bold prediction. I think it's fun when people go out and make some big, bold predictions. I think it makes this year. But like I said, I'm kind of wondering now if it's late. I'm kind of wondering if this isn't a delay that's like, hey, it's pushed back 2 or 3 months. I am wondering if this is pushed back to the PS5 launch, because that indefinitely, that's a big claim. It'd be one thing if they said, hey, we've pushed it back to late summer. Still no date. That could be July, August, technically early September is part of summer. So even if they said summer, but the fact they said indefinitely, I do think it's pushed pretty far, random guy. I do think it's probably towards the end of the year now. Farsender Alexander. Just a random thought from me. I wish there wouldn't be such a want for sequels. Instead, I would love to see more new IP. Totally get that, Farsender. I'm of the opinion I like a balance. I do really love my sequels, but I do love new IP, right? New IP is really what keeps the industry moving, right? You can't have nothing but sequels. You got to have new IP in there. The good news for you, Farzender, is that the best time to launch new IPs are early in a console generation, because people are more willing to go out and try new and daring things, because the generation, there's less library competition. Now, backwards compatibility makes that a bit more of a challenge, but the best time to launch new IP are early in a generation, those first 2-3 years. So the good news for you is I do expect you're going to see a lot of new IP over the next 2 or 3 years. And then towards the end of next gen, you'll see lots of sequels again. That's kind of That's kind of the direction, the industry moves. New IPs at the beginning, lots of sequels at the end. MH Jafarian here. Could you please give us an exact time for these weekly streams? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I don't want to lose any of them. Like your work. Keep on keeping on. Thank you for the super nice comments. I really appreciate that. And thanks for tuning into the streams regularly. That's awesome. The reason I don't give a set time is because I work retail. So anyone that's worked retail knows it is random. Some days I'm in retail in the mornings. Sometimes I'm in retail during the nights. My days off are completely random. Sometimes I have a weekend day off. Sometimes I have a weekday off. It's all random. So I kind of got to play it on the fly. So that's why there's like no set time. I'm sorry about that. I will agree. I should do better about giving you guys a heads up on when, right? I should probably give you like a full day to know. So I should be able to be like, hey guys, the stream's going to be tomorrow at this time, instead of right now. I announce it like 30 minutes before I go live, which I know is not enough build up time for a lot of people. So I will start to try to do better about that. Give you like a full day's notice, hey, tomorrow at this time. I'll try to do better about that. All right. GC2F guy, Death Row. Did you see Sony donated towards COVID-19? Yes, that's awesome. Big props, Sony. Love it. Love it. Would love to see more of the industry. Rockstar as well. Rockstar is going to be donating. I think they said like 5% of all their DLC sales is going to go towards that. So yes, I love it. I'd love to see more of it. So yes, props to Sony. That's awesome. Elias Stapleton. Could you say how many copies Days Gone sold digitally and discs? The total is a success. They're making the sequel right now. Definitely. Elias, it's hard to say a total because Sony has literally never talked about it, ever. They've never given us one updated number. And let me just tell you a little inside baseball. I've drilled them on it. I have drilled Sony over this. I have tagged Sony many times in tweets. I have contacted Sony employees. That is right. I have gone out of my way to try to get them to talk about Days Gone, and they won't do it. It has been a sales success. Yes, definitely over 5 million units. No idea past that. It's definitely over 5 million globally, though. But I mean, other than that, I have no idea. I have no idea over than that because Sony has given zero info. Not even to me. Not even in DMs. Not even that. J Combos 13 Pokemon's. Oh wait, sorry, I fell back. Oh no, I didn't. I answered that one. Elias, how do you think will be the God of War sequel? How do you imagine it will be? The size, graphics, enemies, etc. So that's going to be a hype game. I am massively excited for that. God of War 2018 is one of my favorite games of the generation. I do think it's going to be a lot bigger than God of War 2018 because God of War 2018, it was really them establishing this brand new formula for God of War. And not that 2018 is a small game by any means. It's not. 2018 is an awesome game. But I suspect God of War, the sequel, is going to be bigger because they already now know what works for God of War. If you've watched the documentary on the making of God of War, by the way, highly recommend it if you haven't. But man, was that a stressful development. You could see the team, they were putting their all into it, but it was super stressful, bringing this IP back. They're going to be in a much better place to build onto that sequel. So yeah, I think it's going to be a bigger game. Graphics are going to be mind-blowing, right? Look at how good God of War looked on PS4. Can you imagine what it's going to look like on PS5? Enemies, I'm excited to fight Thor. That's going to be sick. It's going to be hype. GC2F guy, if you were to guess, when would you guess Sony will announce PS5 price? Not until Microsoft does. As a guess, they've kind of hinted at that. So I don't think you get a price until Microsoft gives a price. And I don't think Microsoft gives a price probably till June, because it sounds like, Phil in his recent interview also noted that like the ESA is still going forward. So it sounds like Microsoft's still going to have their June E3 digital show. It sounds like that's when that's going to be. They also hinted that they might do something before that as well as the June show. So they could announce the price before, but I suspect Microsoft's not going to announce till June. And so that's probably when Sony is. I don't think Sony's going to announce before Microsoft. GC2F guy, answered that. Stuart O'Connor. Do you think that a lot of games are going to be targeting a Christmas release instead? Will this be a massive headache for Sony and Microsoft? Could happen, Stuart. A lot of times the gaming industry launches a ton of stuff in October, November, but December, as weird as it is, right? Because December is like Christmas, crazy spending season. There's usually actually not a lot of games released in December. There's a few, you can point to Nintendo who has done that, right? Nintendo has launched some games in December, and there's always like one or two, but it's really like October and November, which is crazy release season for games. You could see, Stuart, now that you mentioned that, with more games getting delayed and pushed back, you might see December this year be a lot bigger than normal in terms of new releases. You might see a spike that you normally don't see in December. So it's entirely possible, Stuart. MH Jafarian, did you like Resident Evil 3 Remake? I haven't played it yet. I'm going to hold off on that one, at least for now. I hear good things. It's not a knock on Resident Evil. It's just I have like so many games going on right now that $60 for the length of that game, it's pretty short, is a little steep for me at the moment. I don't make a ton of money. I'm not poor, but I don't make a ton of money. And with the games that I already have, I think I'm going to hold off on Resident Evil 3 for just a little bit. Definitely going to pick it up, but I'll probably wait until that one's like 30 or $40. But I hear good things. 2, will Ghostwire Tokyo be one hell of a comeback for the one and only Shinji Mikami? A video game as big as Resident Evil, man, I hope. I thought Ghostwire Tokyo, that little like teaser trailer they showed, looked really sweet. I thought it looked dope. I love horror. Anyone that knows me knows I love horror games. They are like one of my favorite genre. So I hope so. I'm rooting for that game. I hope it's amazing. Isma saying, sorry, I lost your question, Isma. Well, we have a lot of questions today, y'all. Thank you. Holy cow. Holy cow. Sorry. There are so many questions. I'm going to start trying to hit these quicker because I don't want anyone's questions to get missed. And I'm going to only go for another like 10 or 15 minutes. So this is time to start doing rapid fire. Thanks everyone for the questions, though. I love it. There's so many today. Isma 0612. Yes, I'm doing great. GC2F guy, remember Knack on PS4? I love how Knack will just randomly appear. Knack just randomly shows himself at the most random times. Yep, I remember Knack. You want to know something? You want to know an honest thing here? I've never played Knack 1 or 2. I know. Some people are going to be like, Benji, why haven't you played Knack? I have not done it. I should do it. I hear Knack 2 is actually pretty good. Don't know if that's true, but I have heard Knack 2 is actually a pretty good time. Isma, how big is the Coral Light shipment, and how much do you think the Switch will sell in March NPD? Is 700,000 even possible? Oh, Isma. Scorching question. Doing these exact hardware predictions is always a gamble, right? Here's what I will say, Isma. If what I'm seeing and what from the people I talk to about this sort of thing, 700,000 is definitely not impossible. It's not impossible. Don't stick me to that, Isma, but it's not impossible. We'll see. We will see. Stuart O'Connor. Is Sony going to have officially market The Last of Us 2 as a PS5 game instead if it's delayed until the console release? Great question, Stuart. I suspect that they will just have a lot of advertising, across the board on both. I don't think they're going to want to ignore that PlayStation 4 install base that is gigantic. It's well on its way to be 120 plus gigantic selling console. They're not going to, ignore that fan base. So they'll definitely still talk about the PS4 version. But yeah, I suspect the next time you see a big marketing push for The Last of Us, regardless if it's, let's say The Last of Us is a September game. Let's say they don't wait till launch. It's still going to be close enough to PS5. I think that they will talk a lot about the PS5 updates next time you see it, but they're not going to ignore the PS4 fan base, if you know what I'm saying. Too many people. MH Jafarian, have you seen Hideo Kojima's receives the BAFTA Fellowship Game Award 2020? Yes, I have. I love it. Big Kojima fan. I know Death Stranding was a bit of a mixed reception. I love Death Stranding. I thought the game was awesome. I definitely could see why some people don't like it. I kind of, in my mind, think of Death Stranding as a love it or hate it game. You're either totally into, I feel like, what Kojima's doing there, or you're like probably totally off on it. I fell on the side that loved it. It was in my top 2 games of last year. Last year was a tough one for me. It was either Death Stranding or Control for me. Those were like my 2 favorite games last year. And Resident Evil 2 Remake right below that. That was like my number 3, right? My top 3 games last year were Death Stranding, Control, and Resident Evil. I think Kojima deserves it. Huge Kojima fan. I'm ready for him to make a horror game. Full scale horror. Let's go, Kojima. He's hinted that's what his next game is. I want to see it. Horror Kojima game. The Practical Bro. Do you think because of the current situation, we might see a permanent surge in digital sales for games? Yes, Practical Bro. I 100% think so. I do think that the current situation is going to permanently get more people used to buying digital. It's not going to be that physical games are dead after this, but yes, I do agree. Digital is going to spike. I do agree with that, Practical Bro. Benji. Great to see you, Benji. Great to see you too. Do you think that noise on the PS5 being a development nightmare because of the cooling? Seems a journalist from Windows Central, who's pretty reliable, was echoing that. It's a good question, Benji. There have been rumors, I will totally peg it as rumors, that the PS5 is running hot. That's kind of been a rumor that's been floating around for a little while. That it's running hot. If you've looked at the PS5, the clock speeds are like crazy high on that GPU. And a old article that came out from Bloomberg, I believe, talked about that one of the reasons the PS5 was struggling with the cost was they said the cooling of the system was really expensive, which also indicates a hot running machine, right? If you're spending a lot of money on cooling, that's because your machine's running hot. So I will say, Benji, it's not impossible. I don't know. I don't have any firsthand info about. I don't think the development nightmare part's true. I highly doubt that. In fact, I think it's Jason Schreier who reported that actually like the dev tools part of it for the PS5 are really good. Like a lot of developers are really happy with the dev tools. So if that's part of the rumor, I don't think that it's running hot. I do think that's a possibility, but I don't know that for sure. But it's possible when you look at those clock speeds, man, they are pushing those clock speeds. So it's not impossible. Sean Torres, I think the whole software delays can help the Xbox Series X. They can push Game Pass really hard. Interesting take. Game Pass is going to be really big next gen. It's going to be really big. It's already been big at the end of this gen, but Sean, I do agree, like Game Pass is going to be huge next gen. Huge. Another question from Benji here. What do you think is the sales potential? Ooh, fun. For the rumored Super Mario 3D Collection remaster, Mario 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy. Could this sell as much as Mario Kart Deluxe? Hard to say that it could sell as much as Deluxe because, my God, Mario Kart Deluxe is insane. But it's going to be huge. If those rumors are true, Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy, which they seem to be because you have like a lot of places reporting that. It's not just like one rumor. Sometimes when it's like one place reporting a rumor, it's like, I don't know about that. But you have like a lot of people saying this is a thing. Sales will be huge, Benji. They will be huge. So a number way over 10 million, way over 10 million. Can it hit that 20 plus million? Not 100% sure, but way over 10, Benji. That will sell way over 10 million units. Split End 89. Do you think our next PS5, Xbox Series events are going to be completely game related? Feels like they have to be. Maybe actual game footage. Here's what I'll say, Split End. I definitely think that the next 2 events for those will show games. Whether that will be the 100% focus, not sure. Definitely Microsoft's June one will definitely be that. But if they have one a little bit before June, Phil kind of hinted that there's a couple more things they want to talk about other than just software. I wonder if it's Lockhart. I have a theory about Lockhart. I don't think it's coming this year. I think Lockhart's been delayed. But I do think that they're going to show games. I do think so, split end. We're going to see games, I think, pretty soon. Split end. Also, sorry, I have something popping up here. It's live chat. Oh, wow. Oh, thank you, guys. It looks like I got some. Sorry, I didn't even realize this. I've never got these before. It looks like I had some people donate on the live chat. They used the super chat function. Thank you. Wound up, it looks like. And I have another one here. It's not showing me who that was. Thank you. Anyone who gave to the super chat, thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you. That is amazing. Seriously, I sincerely thank you for dropping in some super chats. You don't have to ever use the super chat function, anyone. You know what that is it's basically a way to donate. You don't ever have to use that, but I will, I greatly appreciate the support. Thank you so much. All right, back to your question. Sorry. And then the next one here for split end. Also, does The Last of Us 2 spell a delay for Ghost of Tsushima? Yep, went over that earlier, split end. We've been going for a while now, so sorry. The stream's big. This is probably going to be one of the biggest streams I've ever had in terms of questions and length. But I talked about that earlier. Yes, I think it's. I think it might get delayed, but not sure. Benji, do you see a scenario where the next-gen consoles are just one, could be released only in some markets in 2020, like US and Canada first? Benji, I don't think so, because one thing that Phil Spencer talked about is he feels like that really hurt the Xbox One, and I agree with him. There was a lot of factors that really hurt the Xbox One in sales. There's a ton we can go over. Their messaging was poor. I'm not trying to hate on Xbox. I actually really like Xbox, but their messaging leading into the Xbox One, I think we can all agree, even for people that are big Xbox fans, it wasn't great, right? Whenever you have Don Matrick out here saying, we got a console for you, it's the Xbox 360, you don't want to be telling people not to buy your next console. Like, that's just not the way to approach it. So, messaging was all over the place. Wow, we have another super chat. Thank you so much, Ruger. Thank you. And Ruger left a message here. Thanks for all you do, Benji. Thank you so much, Ruger. You're amazing. Ruger Singh, thank you. You rock. But yeah, Xbox had a lot of issues, but one of them was, Phil said he felt like that, staggering the launch of Xbox. Because if you remember, it took some markets a really long time to get the Xbox One. He felt like that really hurt them. And I agree, especially like if you look at places like a lot of areas of Europe, Xbox One just kind of fell off a cliff compared to the 360. The Xbox One's actually done pretty well in the US, to be honest. It's not the market leader, but Xbox One isn't a bad selling console in the US. It's selling pretty good, but actually, it launched day one, and in a lot of markets that didn't happen. So I don't think so, Benji, just because I think companies have realized that staggered launch doesn't work well. You're just giving the competition too much room. So I think regardless, both these consoles, when they launch, they're going to be a global launch. Ryan here, there were over 48 million Switch sold by the end of 2019. I personally don't see 4 to 5 million shipped this quarter. I'm thinking more like 3.5 million. Could be, Ryan. I really respect your opinion. I think Ryan's a really good a salesperson too. So you could be spot on the money. Could be spot on. I predicted like that 4 million, but I could be a bit high. It's definitely possible. Benji, do you expect the exclusive deals Sony secure this gen, like Call of Duty and Destiny, will go to Microsoft next gen? I can tell you, I definitely think that third-party deals are going to be aggressive next gen. I definitely think so. I think whether we're talking about exclusives, whether we're talking about marketing deals, regardless, I do think you're going to see some aggressive deals next gen. Microsoft kind of hinted at that. I keep referencing that Phil interview. Go watch it if you haven't. Phil Spencer, regardless of how you feel about him, one thing about Phil is he'll just like put stuff out there. Like he's for like a person in his position of power, he just lets stuff fly. Like he'll just say stuff. And one of the things he talked about is that Microsoft have several deals with third parties that they don't own, right? Not first party, third parties publishing deals that are exclusive that they have not announced. So that kind of goes into what I'm saying. I definitely think you're going to see some aggressive deals. Where they're going to go, I don't know, Benji, but I think you're going to see both Sony and Microsoft spending some money to get some deals. Rang Tolu. I honestly wonder how Black Ops 3 compared to recent Call of Duty games. It is true Advanced Warfare and Infinite Warfare was a low point for the series, but it really feels to me like this particular is very big. Yeah, Black Ops 3 was huge, Rang. I believe, personal belief, that Modern Warfare is going to outsell it lifetime. I think Modern Warfare will be bigger, but Black Ops 3 was huge. You know, that was a really good one. In that mix of where Call of Duty was going down, Black Ops 3 had a huge spike. But I do think that current Modern Warfare will outsell it lifetime. Ruger. Hey, Benji, if Final Fantasy VII reviews well and is well received overall, do you think it could have an abnormally long sales tail? Ooh, considering it might be the last AAA game for 4 months or more. That's a great question, Ruger. I will say I think it's going to have better than normal JRPG legs. So JRPG is usually like the most front-loaded genre, like of all. You look at like every single genre of games, JRPGs are super front-loaded. People go in, you know, JRPG fans are hardcore. They are dedicated. They are invested. So they do, you know, really good sales units up front, but a lot of times they drop even in their second week, like 70, 80%, like huge drops. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake's going to have better than average legs. Yes, I do think so, for a JRPG especially. Like you said, competition is going to be a little light now in the next coming months. It did look like it might be steep. It looked like you were going to get The Last of Us and stuff hitting pretty soon afterwards. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't have any competition for a while. Elias Stapleton, take a look to those Persona 5 reviews. Masterpiece. Yeah, only on PS4, Japanese game. So I got the Platinum Trophy on Persona 5, Elias. I'm a big fan. I'm not going to buy Royal. Just because like I said, I got the Platinum Trophy on Persona 5. I don't know that I can put myself through going Persona again with even more content. Persona 5. That's not a knock on Persona 5. I loved that game, but the Platinum Trophy took me well over 100 hours. So if I go back to Persona 5, which is possible, I might play Royal one day. It's gonna be a while. You know, I'm gonna give Persona 5 a bit of a break because I played the heck out of that game when it came out. Tonsi K, what do you say about the leak about problems about PS5? Touched on this, Tonsi. I think the heat issue is a possibility. I think if development tools or something people are pointing to, I don't think that part's true. That the console is running hot, possible. Ruger, do you know if Resident Evil 3 Remake saw a big increase in pre-orders due to the demo similar to Final Fantasy VII? Not to the same degree, Ruger. I've still never in my life seen anything like what that Final Fantasy VII Remake demo did. Never seen it. I've never seen a demo impact sales like that. So no, that's not to say Resident Evil 3 Remake the demo didn't help, but not like Final Fantasy VII's did. That was crazy. Never seen a spike like that. All right, guys, I'm going to answer the questions that are here, and then we'll call it a chat because it's been a long one, but I love it. Thank you, everyone, for the stream. It's been great. This has been one of my favorite chats ever. So thanks, everyone. But I actually got to get ready for work. So I'm going to finish these questions, then I got to get ready and go to work. All right, where are we at? Sean Torres, they should make it a cross-gen like Nintendo did with Breath of the Wild. Probably talking about The Last of Us. You know, I'm kind of leaning that way now. I think they probably should. Farsender Alexander, what if it's just a cross-gen situation like Breath of the Wild for Switch and Wii U? I think you guys are talking about The Last of Us, and I agree. I kind of think at this point, if it's pushed off indefinitely, you should probably just make it cross-gen. Probably, you know, because that game's probably not for months. So I honestly think you should probably make it cross-gen. It would certainly help boost PS5 sales. Here, let me correct that. Only way I don't make that launch cross-gen is maybe if Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is a launch game. I don't think it is. I think Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is going to come within the first 12 months of the PS5. But I don't think it's going to be launched. But I will say if Horizon Zero Dawn 2, let's say by some crazy reason, is a launch game for PS5, I wouldn't I would try to launch The Last of Us before, because I wouldn't want The Last of Us and Horizon competing with each other. Those are two huge games. I wouldn't want those to compete. So that's the one thing I'll say. If by some crazy miracle Horizon Zero Dawn 2 launches with PS5, I think The Last of Us should come out beforehand. My opinion. But if it's not, might as well just make The Last of Us Part 2 a cross-gen game. Let me grab a drink. All right. TTZZMM, do you know how Resident Evil 3 is doing? Not yet. I'll know soon. I'll start reaching out to my contacts. I'll start looking at data from other countries. I'll start getting that info over the next couple days. So I don't know yet, TTZZMM. I know that leading up to launch, it was tracking really well. What final sell-through looks like right now, not sure. I'll have that info in the next couple days. Ryan Tolu. At least here in Italy, the quarantine is rumored to end at the end of April, but the locals will be closed for way longer. Interesting, Ryan. My thoughts out to you over in Italy. I know Italy has been a country that's been devastated by this. I feel for you. So shout out to anyone from Italy. We're here. I know it's hard to get that message across, over the oceans and everything like that. But Italy, stay strong. We're here for you. The U.S. now unfortunately looks like it's our turn to start taking a really bad turn on things. But my thoughts to everyone in Italy and to you, Ryan, stay strong. Stay strong. Farsender Alexander, do you think The Last of Us Part 2 will have an enhanced patch for PS5 either way? Yes. Yes, Farsender. Either way, Last of Us Part 2 is definitely going to be enhanced on PS5. I suspect so is Final Fantasy VII Remake and Ghost of Tsushima. I think all those games are PS5 enhanced. Ruger, any update on how Final Fantasy VII Remake is doing, or are things too crazy right now to tell? Thanks, Benji. Ruger, kind of touched on this earlier. It's going to be really hard to track Final Fantasy now that everything is staggered and jumbled up. It's just going to be hard, Ruger. It's going to be hard to get like a definite idea, because now you have retail releasing in some spots, not releasing in some spots, digitally not out anywhere. It's a mess, Ruger. So honestly, until Square Enix gives PR, it's going to be just tough to know where Final Fantasy VII's at. I suspect, my guess, massive. I still think it's going to open bigger than Final Fantasy 15. But in terms of like really solid reporting, it's going to be a bit, Ruger. Things are just too messy. Ryan, The Last of Us 2 launch in November for both PS4 and PS5, calling it. I'm leaning towards you. Paul Wild, Rockstar don't pay taxes, though. Ooh, spicy take. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Glenn Phillips responding to Ryan. Here we go. We got a last chunk of questions, and then we out. John, don't know if that question has been asked before, but do you think the launch of the new hardware will be very heavily impacted by the virus? John, we've gone over this a little bit, over the past couple chats, and this one, yes, John, in some way. Now, whether that's hardware being delayed till next year, I think that's the most unlikely scenario. I still think they're released this year, John, but I will say software, yes. I think you're going to see some software impacts for next gen from the virus, definitely. I definitely think so. Glenn Phillips saying, glad to see you, and looks like you're doing well. Glad to see you, Glenn. Thanks for hopping in the chat. Doing good. Hope everyone's doing good. Sean Torres, I think Sony is not happy with the sales of Days Gone and Death Stranding. Death Stranding, I would say, Sean, actually, you might be right. I don't know that for sure, but I kind of have the vibe Death Stranding sales they're probably not happy with. Death Stranding launched very, very good. It's opening, let's say, week, and then sales went. So it was like, boom, first week is looking good, and then no legs. Then legs just evaporated. Days Gone, though, I do think they're happy with, Sean. I think the only reason they didn't talk about Days Gone is it didn't track the same way as, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, Uncharted, The Last of Us, So I think that maybe Sony was a little worried that people would kind of compare Days Gone to those and be like, oh, Days Gone's not doing well. I think they're happy with the sales, but I think that's probably why they haven't talked about it as a guess. If they're not happy with Days Gone sales, then I don't really know what they expected it to sell, because it sold well. All right. Oh, and here's some of the super chats. So here, thank you to Tonsi K for the super chat. Thank you to Wound Up Penguin. Thank you to Split End. And thank you for Ruger. Y'all are amazing. Matt Duffy. Hey, Benji, big fan. Thank you, Matt. That's humbling. I was just wondering what you thought about Game Pass membership numbers after next-gen launches. Do you think lots of people are waiting to get to the new Xbox before signing up? I think Game Pass numbers will be enormous next gen. Huge, because I also suspect that Xbox is going to do a lot better next gen than this gen. My super early prediction with no data, like this could be entirely wrong, could be completely wrong. My early prediction is PlayStation 5 still outsells Xbox globally. I just think it's too strong of a brand, especially in Europe and especially in Japan. Markets like this, it just has a big advantage for PlayStation. But I do think Xbox is going to do a lot better than they did with the Xbox One. Xbox One's probably going to finish somewhere around between 50 and 60 million, somewhere in that range. I definitely think next gen Xbox does better than that. Probably more like 70, 80 million. I don't want to go to 100 million for Xbox yet because that would be a really, really big number. Not saying it's impossible. I'm just not going to go there yet. But I think Xbox will probably be able to hit that like 70, 80 million range next gen. So I think Game Pass subscribers will be huge. Millions and millions and millions. Honestly, 20 plus million. I think that's possible for Game Pass. So really, really big. Salty is Gaming saying, yo, what up, Salty? Benji, what do you think? Will Nintendo play a Switch Pro in 2021, next gen in 2023, or no Switch Pro and next gen in 2022? I've come to the belief that there will be no Switch Pro. I think there will be a remodel again of some sort of the Switch that has some sort of new functionality because Nintendo loves to do new models. I just don't know that we'll be able to call it a Pro. I could be wrong on that, but I have a feeling that Pro, is just not going to happen. So I suspect probably a next gen Switch in 2023 probably sounds right. Yeah, probably something like that. All right, here's the last questions. Tony Yayo saying, nice treadmill. Thanks, Tony. Right now I got some blankets on it, but I do like to work out. I'm not like the most jacked dude in the world, Tony, but I do like to work out. Really enjoy it. So yeah, got to get on it. Tony saying Microsoft should buy the Ori developer. I've heard rumored that they tried to and they didn't want to be acquired. I don't know if that's 100% true, but I heard Microsoft kind of approached Moon Studios about a possible acquiring, and they didn't want to do it. I don't know if that's true. That's just rumor mill stuff. You never know what's true or not. But Tony, I've heard that Moon turned that down. They don't want it. Benji. So Khabib versus Ferguson at UFC 249 not happening. Who's to blame? Khabib or Dana? Yeah, Benji, Khabib versus Tony Ferguson. It's off. It ain't happening. I don't think Khabib's to blame. Honestly, I put the blame on Dana White. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I get that he wants the sport to keep going, but Dana, just wait. Can we just wait for this stuff to calm down a little bit before we're trying to put together fights like that? Like, let's just wait a couple months. Stop trying to push this stuff and stuff falling apart. So I would say I put the blame on Dana because I think he should just wait until May or June and then do this fight. All right. Eric saying thanks for the stream. Tony saying blame Putin, tell them to open Russia borders. That's funny. Tony saying Putin's ducking Ferguson, hilarious. Some funny Khabib questions and stuff right at the end there for UFC. Dark, I'll answer your questions, Dark, really quick, and then I'm out. All right, Dark's questions are the last ones for this chat. Thanks for the best chat ever, by the way, everyone. This was my favorite chat. This was the best chat we've had. We had a good amount of viewers. We were up in the 40s, which for me is great. I'm not some big streamer, so having 40-something people here, it's awesome. It's been a blast. The questions were so good. There were so many questions. Best chat ever for my channel, I think. This was my favorite chat. So thanks, everyone. Going to answer Dark's questions, and then I'm out to work. So Dark, in past generations, the first half year after a new hardware launch were kind of empty. With coronavirus delaying game releases and development now, I hope the spread will be better across 2021. Great comment, Dark, and I think that's entirely possible. with what's already announced, if everything for 2020 is coming in September, December, then it's already super packed, let alone if you include unannounced stuff planned for the console launches. Agree, Dark. I think the delays are going to be a bummer for this year, right? This year's going to look a little light in some ways because so many games are being delayed and pushed back. But the good news, Dark, is like you said, 2021 is probably going to be jam-packed, probably late this year, and first half of next year should be packed. All right, thanks, everyone. Best chat ever. If you like the chat, make sure you hit that like button. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, subscribe. We try and do these chats once a week. I'll see everyone on the next live chat again. Thanks, everyone. You rock. Time for me to head to work. Peace out. Play some games. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And I'll see you on Twitter or the next stream. Adios.